Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome to the Q&A video. I went on Twitter and I went on YouTube and made a post talking about I'm doing a Q&A video. So let's get into those questions right now. First question, how come you chose the Artisan Type-99 and didn't go for a more of a balanced or tracking oriented pad like the Zero or Key 83? So I've always liked slow mouse pads. My first mouse pad ever was a QCK Heavy, and then I went to the Zowie GSR. And if you don't know, that mouse pad is a lot slower than QCK Heavy. And on top of that, once it gets worn, it becomes even slower. And I live in Florida, so there's a lot of humidity. So the mouse pad is even slower. So I really just like a muddy pad. I don't really know why. Maybe I'm just used to it at this point. So I just naturally go towards a slower mouse pad. Even on games where you need more tracking, like Battlefield 4. I think Battlefield 4, you need a decent amount of tracking compared to all the other Battlefield games. It just feels nice. And when it comes to speed, I feel like, if I just want to move faster, I'll just move my mouse faster. It just feels more natural. While the mouse pad gives me more control, it just feels nice. I tried the Zero out for a while because the Type-99 was not a thing for a few years. So I actually tried the Zero out and it was nice. That mouse pad to me feels like a speed pad. If I ever want a speed pad, I would probably go to the Zero. It was a little bit too fast for me, especially when I played games like Counter-Strike. Type-99 definitely felt better for attack shooters, and even for Battlefield 4, it still feels better. Definitely, my tracking was a little bit worse when I was using the Type-99 compared to Zero, but with just practice and getting used to the pad, it was about the same, if not even better. And for the Key 83, I actually don't really know anything about that mouse pad. When the Type-99 came out, I knew that was going to be my endgame pad. So when I bought that when it first came out, which was 2023 at this point or 2024, I can't remember. I pretty much just stopped looking into mouse pads in general because I knew this is going to be my endgame pad because it was slow enough and it wasn't affected by humidity, which is the big thing. Because when I did use the Zowie GSR, the humidity definitely was kind of annoying. So now that I have a mouse pad that's slow and not affected by humidity, it's pretty much just my endgame pad. So I don't really look into any new mouse pads that come out. Next question, what's the best way to improve? By putting yourself from the start in very difficult situations out of your comfort zone and try to figure them out over time, or starting small and ramping up slowly. So the best way to improve, you could definitely put yourself in difficult situations, but I feel like when it comes to video games, that's kind of hard to do, especially for a game like Battlefield. The difficult situations for Battlefield, honestly, would be playing in a more competitive environment. So like B flag against good players, or you can even one up that and just play 5v5s. Because in those environments, people actually know how to aim, they know how to peek properly. They aren't just mindlessly running at you. And especially 5v5s, the best players in the game are going to be playing that. But when it comes to putting yourself in difficult situations, I would kind of say that's all you can really do. If you're playing pubs, I don't really know how you would put yourself in difficult situations. I think you just pretty much play, you learn what angles are good, you learn the timings of the map, you learn the maps. So when it comes to the pubs, I think literally you just play pubs and then over time you'll get better. But I also do think it's a mindset thing. If you get on the game and your mindset is just to have fun and do whatever, then you're just going to have fun and do whatever. But if you actually have the mindset of wanting to get better, you're going to get better. You're going to see things about yourself that you can improve upon. You're going to see mistakes that you make. You're going to see what you could have done differently in different situations. So I think when it comes to getting better, it's a mindset thing. If you don't have the mindset of actually wanting to get better, you'll never get better. But I think mindset's the most important. If you don't have the correct mindset, then whatever you want to achieve, you probably won't achieve. Next question, how do you manage to find the perfect balance between aggression and defensive plays? So this just comes with experience. Sometimes you're aggressive and you get punished for it and you realize that I should have played more passive. Sometimes you play passive and you realize that, I should have pushed here and been more of aggressive. So it just comes with experience and learning when to be aggressive, when not to be aggressive. But if you think that you're playing too passive, you could try to play more aggressive and just kind of push. You'll probably die, but you'll actually learn when to do it and when not to do it. And the same thing with being passive. If you think you're too aggressive, you're just running and constantly dying, you can try to sit back more, and then you'll also learn when you're being too passive and when you're not being too passive. But I think mainly it just comes with experience and playing the game and like learning timings and angles, where people are going to be. So it's mainly just experience. What's your go-to Milsim? Honestly, I don't really have a go-to Milsim. I don't really play Milsims at all, but the closest game to a Milsim I played is probably DayZ standalone, and I put a decent amount of hours into that game. The mod, Armor 2 DayZ mod, that game was a Milsim, but I'd say DayZ standalone isn't really Milsim-like, a little bit, but that's probably the closest game when it comes to a Milsim. Why did you decide to jump into Battlefield 4 so late? I may be wrong, but it'd be interesting to know some background. Yeah, sure. So getting into that, I would say about 2013 is when I started getting more into PC gaming. And I got into this game called Gary's Mod. And I played this game mode called Trouble in Terrorist Town. And it was like my first real PC game that I really liked and that I played a lot. I still wasn't super invested into gaming in general. My main focus was playing sports. I was on the swim team, I ran track, and I played football. But playing games was always something I did on the side. But in 2013, I got into Gary's Mod, and then that led into 2014. I was still playing that game, and eventually I created my own server, and that server got extremely popular. It was max pop 24/7. It was one of the most popular servers for that game mode. And I think in Gary's Mod overall, it was top 200 server when it came to popularity. So it was a very popular server, and pretty much that was the only game I was really playing at the time. And then later in 2014 is when I got into CSGO. And I started playing a lot of CSGO with a little bit of Gary's Mod on the side. And then in 2015 is when I started getting into more competitive Counter-Strike. I started playing ESCA. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but it's more of a competitive format. And then in 2015, I also joined the CS team. And then eventually I stopped playing sports and started focusing more on Counter-Strike. And then in 2015 as well, the Gary's Mod server I had got hacked, and they somehow got into like the files of the server and deleted everything. I should have had a backup, but with me being young and inexperienced, I didn't have that. So I kind of took that as a sign, and I just full focused playing competitive Counter-Strike. And I continued to play competitive Counter-Strike throughout 2015 and in 2016. And in 2016 is when I qualified for Tier 2. If you don't know what Tier 2 is, it's semi-professionally. So I qualified for that in 2016. I continued to play competitive Counter-Strike all the way into 2017, where I eventually quit playing. And then I got into PUBG, and I started grinding the leaderboards in PUBG. I was top 25 in squads and duo at the same time. And then in 2017 as well, I got into two more games, one being Rocket League and then another one being an MMO called Black Desert Online. Rocket League started to slowly take over as my main game, and PUBG kind of fell out towards the end of 2017. And on top of this, I was still playing CSGO. But Rocket League, I kind of became my main game. I hit Grand Champ. I played Rocket League through 2017 through 2018. And I think I stopped playing towards the end of 2018. I might have played a little bit in the beginning of 2019, but eventually I stopped. But in 2018 is when Black Desert Online became my main game. I played that 2017, 2018, 2019, and a little bit in the 2020. That's honestly my favorite game of all time. I have 11,000 hours in that game, and I was a part of one of the top PvP guilds. And like I was saying, I was also playing Counter-Strike at this time as well. I was just playing for fun. I was playing Face It Pugs with friends for fun. I was obviously level 10. I was playing against the best North American players still. And I was still playing on a team, but I was getting paid to carry teams in like the lower division. So that's pretty much what I was doing in Counter-Strike. But Black Desert Online became my main game throughout pretty much 2018, 2019, and 2020. And then in 2020, Valorant came out, and I was playing Tier 2 Valorant. I eventually stopped playing that because I didn't like the game. And we had back-to-back tournaments where we got eliminated by cheaters. And I didn't even really like the game that much anyway, so I just stopped playing it, which thankfully I did, because looking at that game now, I couldn't imagine playing that game. And then 2020 is when I first started playing Battlefield 4. I wasn't completely invested in Battlefield 4 as Valorant was my main focus, but once I stopped playing Valorant, I started playing a little bit more Battlefield. And then going into 2021 is when I started playing Battlefield 4 seriously and making YouTube content. And in 2021, I only had like 300 subs, so probably no one knows this, but I actually used to stream the game every day for hours. And that's mainly because there was good servers and it was actually fun to play. But once 2042 came out, all the good servers died. All the servers that are in the game now are literally the servers that were there when 2042 came out. And as you know, the servers now are pretty much terrible for NA. So all the good servers actually died when 2042 came out. And that's one reason why I'm saying when Battlefield 6 comes out, Battlefield 4 will actually be dead, at least in NA, because 2042 borderline killed the game. So when Battlefield 6 comes out, it'll probably pretty much just kill it for NA. 2022 is when I started getting popular with Battlefield 4. I think I hit over 1,000 subs in 2022. So most people probably know me from 2022 or 2023. That's pretty much my gaming background. Are you Canadian and are you Mexican? So the Mexican thing is an inside joke in the 5v5 Discord, but I've actually been asked questions like this on stream in past YouTube videos. But I'm American and I'm white. So I am not Mexican and I'm not Canadian. Do you aim train, warm up before stream or benchmark to do well in game? Or do you just hop on and start playing? Honestly, I just hop on and start playing. Like maybe if I play 5v5s, I'll like join the practice range for 30 seconds and like flick between targets just because it's a 5v5 and I want to be warmed up when I actually play it. If I play pubs, I just straight up join pubs. But even then for 5v5s, it's very rare that I actually join the practice range and like warm up for 30 seconds. I can sit down, put my hands on my keyboard and mouse, and I can feel how warmed up I am. Like usually it's like I'm good to go. I don't even need a warm up, or it's like kind of in the middle where like it might take me a couple minutes to warm up, but like I don't really need a warm up. And then there's times where it's like I don't feel warm at all, and I can just sense that just sitting down and putting my hands on my keyboard and mouse. And if I'm ever in like the state where I'm like I don't feel warm at all, I'll go to the practice range for like 30 seconds or a minute and just like flick between bots, or I guess the targets. But I only do that if I'm playing 5v5s. If I play pubs, I just hop in right away. Also, how did you meet the other members of Puksters, Doc, Vale, Nuz, etc.? Back in 2021, 2021 and before, there was a server called Apex. The server was the best server you could play on. It was a rush server, so a lot of people might not like rush, but it was still the best server you could play on. Bipods were banned, thermal scopes were banned, shotguns were banned, all explosives were banned. Like literally all explosives were banned. Poison bow was banned. I feel like I'm missing something, but like everything cringe was banned. So all the good players played on the server. Everyone played on the server. It was just by far the best server to play on. And because of that, players in like the Puksters also played on that server. So I met them in that server. And before Puksters, it was a clan called Cow. And then after Cow, it was a clan called Yum. Doc, Vale, and Nuz ended up taking a break from Battlefield. I think it was like in 2022. I don't think they played in 2023 or 2024. So they took like a 2-year break. But I just kept playing, and then eventually they came back this year and they created Puksters, invited me to it. But I met them through Apex. And I met pretty much most people in the Battlefield community through the Apex server, just because everything cringe in the server was banned. So because of that, all the good players wanted to play on the server. Unfortunately, that was one of the servers that didn't really survive after 2042 released. So rip Apex. They tried to make a comeback a few times, but it didn't really work out. Have you ever played the PlayStation version? No, I have never even owned a PlayStation. And the only Battlefield I played on console was Battlefield 3. Are you going to play competitive CS again? Probably not. I've tried my hand at it a few times. It's just not the same. The quote that goes, "A man cannot step in the same river twice because it is not the same river and he is not the same man." And honestly, I would say that pretty much applies for when I played competitive Counter-Strike. When I ended up quitting back in 2017, I tried a couple times and it just wasn't the same. I think the drive, the passion, it just once you quit, I don't really think you can go back. But I still played Face It up until Valorant came out. And then I pretty much didn't play Counter-Strike at all until CS2 came out. And then when CS2 came out, I played Face It and I grinded the leaderboard. And if you watch my videos, I was top 100 NA in the leaderboards. So I definitely still have the skill for the game, but especially now, I don't think I'll ever play competitive Counter-Strike again. It will still always be my favorite FPS game, and I don't think anything will come close. But when it comes to competitive Counter-Strike, I don't see it happening. More so, I just play it for fun now with friends. Is No Christ cheating? So if you don't know who this is and what this is referring to, it's talking about Counter-Strike. There's a new player that made his way to #1 on the leaderboard in NA. People are questioning a lot about him. People are posting sus clips of him. He's relatively new to Steam and Face It. I think his Steam account's 4 years old and his Face It account is only 3 years old. But he's 18 years old, so I think that makes sense because his Steam account would have been made when he was 14 and his Face It account would have been made when he was 15. So I think that makes sense. But then that also raises a question to how is he so good so fast? Because if his Face It account's only 3 years old, he hasn't been playing for that long. So I think a big part of that is that NA truly sucks. As a region, NA truly sucks. When I was talking earlier, when I hit top 100 in NA on CS2 Face It, I didn't play the game for like 3 years. I'm pretty sure I didn't touch Face It for 3 years. And I come back to Counter-Strike and I automatically hit top 100 in NA Face It. The region is just bad. Even when it comes to competitive Counter-Strike, I'm pretty sure there isn't even an NA team that is full of NA players anymore. It's just a bunch of imports from other countries. And when you get into tier 2 Counter-Strike, those teams are worse than tier 3 EU teams. So I think NA as a region is just terrible. So if you have a player that is truly investing himself into the game and wants to be the best, I wouldn't exactly be surprised that he's better than all these other players. And on top of that, he did get flown out to the Face It HQ where he played and the headquarters. He also streamed this game and he had a monitor cam and a hand cam. So I think he's legit. You know, I feel like it'd be very hard to continue the cheat while putting up the same performance when you get flown out to the HQ and you're streaming and you have a monitor cam and you have a hand cam. I'm pretty sure before he got flown out to the HQ, he was level 2 on the leaderboard. And when he was playing at the HQ, he ended up hitting #1. So I think he's legit. How do you become a BF4 player with high KD matches in Locker? So the #1 mistake that I see when people play Locker is they just run in the choke points. That's all they do. They just run in the choke points, especially if your team doesn't have C. I'll see players push upper into C. And I think that's the worst thing you can do. Unless if you're throwing smokes and abusing movement, but even then, I don't know. I think movement is completely unnecessary other than this stabilizing your reticle and then Zuzu are like the only 2 movements that you actually need. I think every other movement is purely just for clip farming and it doesn't actually enhance your gameplay at all. If anything, it just hurts it because you're just flying into groups of people. But going back to what I was saying, if you don't have C and you're pushing upper, I think it's just straight suicide. Even if you do get like 3 kills or something, like what are you going to do after that? You're just in this huge open area. There's people everywhere. People are spawning on C. People are spawning on squad mates. So I think pushing upper, the upper choke point when you don't have C is the worst thing you can do. Lower can be good. You know, it could be hit or miss or whatever. But the main thing I see is that people only push those 2 choke points. No one goes snow. Like at all. No one goes snow. And I think going snow is the best thing you can do. And not even going snow to go C stairs, but to even flank through B or flank through D. Go D to C or B to C. Going C stairs could also be suicide. You kind of just have to read the situation and see if going C stairs is the play. But I don't see a lot of people go through snow. Probably because it's boring. Because you have to run, especially if you're D and you're running all the way to B to flank C. You know, that's a pretty long run. And a lot of people just don't want to be running doing nothing, I guess. But I mean, if you want high KD matches or just high kills in general, because if you're dead, you can't get kills, right? So I think staying alive is the most important thing. Even if you don't get kills for like 20 seconds, that 20 seconds could just be you getting into a better position to allow you to get a bunch of kills. So I think going snow and actually flanking like the best thing you can probably do for lockers instead of just throwing yourself into the choke points. And it's just the number one thing I just don't see a lot of players do is actually go snow and flank. They just constantly fight the choke points and try pushing it over and over again the entire match. So if you want to get high KD, honestly, I would just try to flank snow a lot more and just play safe, play your life. Just don't throw yourself into a big group of people and just play smart. How many hours a week do you spend playing games? I would say about 20 to 25 hours a week on average. I spend playing video games. And how do you control your mind in a painful situation, such as when you are very exhausted or angry or sad or in panic, etc., just after unexpected or very nervous event? Even though I try and want to stay rational and peaceful, I find myself vulnerable and overly emotional and keep making regretful memories. I want your advice on monitoring and improving mental health so I can stay consistent and focused on my goals. So when it comes to improving mental health, for me personally, the way I deal with things is that I like to be alone. It helps me figure out what I need to do, like how to overcome challenges, and it kind of just helps me sort out situations. And even at the start of my mental health journey, because I used to be pretty bad off mentally, but over the years I have improved greatly, and I would say I'm in a pretty decent spot where I'm actually happy. This year's been a little rough, but it's been all good because I think life always brings you tests, and especially when you are overcoming things and trying to improve mental health or anything in life, you will always be tested. And as long as you don't give up, it doesn't matter how many times you fail, but as long as you don't give up, you will eventually pass the test and you will always end up better person, better life. So being alone for me really helps me figure things out and helps me overcome things. And I think a lot of people could benefit from being alone. You know, being alone is how you truly understand yourself. You truly understand who you are, how you truly understand what you actually want to do in life. And you just start to learn things about yourself. And if you spend enough time alone and start asking yourself questions, you'll start to see bad habits that you're actually doing, or even habits that you should be doing. And I think everyone has things that they know they shouldn't be doing, and everyone has things that they know they should be doing. And when you're alone, it helps you figure out these things even more. And by actually taking those challenges head on will increase your mental health as well. And it will make you a better person, and just your life will become better too. Yeah, it's kind of like building a relationship with somebody else. How do you deepen your bond with someone else? You talk to them, you hang out with them, you overcome things. And you need to apply that to yourself as well. You need to talk to yourself, learn who you are, overcome challenges. All these things build trust within yourself. It increases confidence. So I think being alone is a really good way to just understand yourself, understand life, and improve your mental health. And you start to learn other things that you can improve on, which will also just increase your overall quality of life. I do have 3 tips, one of them being going to the gym. I think going to the gym is very important. It increases your physical health. It also increases your mental health. And on top of that, you're doing something that's very hard and uncomfortable. And when you forcefully put yourself in a situation that's very hard and uncomfortable, I think that is the best growth you can have as a person. Because there's many times in life where unfortunate things happen and you're put in a hard and uncomfortable situation, but those things come naturally, and all you can do is just push through those moments. But when you actually put yourself in those situations on purpose, going to the gym being one of them, I just truly think that's where the most growth happens as a person. And on top of that, going to the gym will increase your discipline, and discipline is a very good trait to have as a person, because when all motivation's gone, the only thing you have left is discipline. So you always want to be building discipline. You always want to have habits that test your discipline every day. This will increase your character, increase your life. So discipline is just very important to partake in every single day. The second one is eating healthy. You don't need to be the most healthy eater in the world, but you should eat somewhat healthy. Like avoid all bad foods. Like my diet isn't insane, but I avoid pretty much all the bad food, no fast foods. I never eat fast foods. I try to stay away from anything really bad. I've never had soda. I literally only drink water. So I would say having a good diet, it doesn't need to be the perfect diet, but having a good diet and just avoiding all the bad things, not only will that increase your appearance and you'll become physically better, that will also make you feel better as well and increase your mental health. And the third thing I would say is going outside and getting direct sunlight, like actual direct sunlight, not just going outside and driving your car or going someplace, but like actually going outside and having direct sunlight. So like going on a walk or sitting outside in the sun. Like for me, I go outside every morning when I wake up into my backyard and I sit in my lounge chair. And then I also walk to the gym. Not only will it make your skin look better, it'll make you feel a lot better. So when you say you have these very emotional situations and you try to act rational and peaceful, but you end up making regretful memories, it seems like you're trying to willpower your way to not let the emotions get the best of you. But in the end, you end up giving in. And for that, I would say you're attacking the problem, but you're not attacking the root cause, because you're just trying to willpower your way to not let these emotions take control of you. But you need to actually attack the root cause of these problems, whatever that may be. And that goes back to me saying, I feel like being alone can help with these things. You sit alone, you ask yourself, why do you feel this way? Why do you feel so strong about this? What makes you feel this way? And you start asking yourself questions and questions over and over again until you can't ask yourself questions anymore and you end up getting an answer. Maybe you're partaking in bad habits that were obvious, but you didn't see it at first. But after asking all these questions, you realize like, oh, I'm doing all these bad things. I need to, not do these bad things. And you can start taking away bad habits and start replacing them with good habits. And then maybe doing that can stop you from feeling these negative emotions that take over you. So I hope that helped. I've dealt a lot with mental health, but I've never been asked any mental health questions before. So I hope my answer was good and could help you. And I also wish everything works out the best for you and you get over whatever you're going through. Who you think is the best Battlefield 4 player from every region, Europe, South America, and US and Canada, currently active, of course, or at least still played the last 5v5 tournament? So Europe, I'd probably say Screamy. South America, Lordsy, and then for NA, I would say myself. And if I couldn't choose myself, I'd say Ollis. What's some personal goals you have for your life in the next 10 years? So right now I'm 25. So by the time I'm 35, I would like to have complete financial freedom. That's pretty much my goal by the time I become 30. So in 5 years. And then by the time I'm 35, probably start a family, at least be married by the time I'm 35. And then when it comes to having kids, probably at 35, maybe a little bit later. Because when I do have kids, my whole purpose in life will shift towards my family. So I want to be in a spot where I can shift my entire life purpose to solely just concentrating on my family. And I wouldn't do that until I have kids. So until I'm ready to shift my purpose to my family is when I'd probably have kids. So around 35 for that. So the next 10 years, financial freedom and then starting a family. Where did your name come from? So in 2010, when I got an Xbox 360, I used to go to my friend's house and play MW2. And I really liked the character from the single player, Ghost. So I tried to make my name Ghost for my Xbox Live account, but it was taken. So one of the suggested names was Uniting Ghost 67. And that's the name I picked. And then in 2015, when I started competing in Counter-Strike, I didn't want my name to be Uniting Ghost 67 when commentators would read my name when I was at LAN or playing in any tournaments. So I removed the Ghost 67 and just went with Uniting. Do you believe BattleBit pushed your career in content creation? Yes, I do. So Battlefield gave me about 4,000 subs, 4,000 to 5,000 subs around that area, which is half my subs. And it also gave me the idea to split my content into two. So I have the 8-minute video, long kill streaks. It's a very slow pace style video where I just go on a big kill streak, not super fast kills, and then do a second video where I do kind of like fast-paced gameplay, quick kills. That maybe it's a high kill streak if I'm getting the kills quickly. So BattleBit actually gave me the idea to split my content in the two different styles, which for BattleBit, it worked really well. I was getting like almost 100,000 views on multiple videos. One video did get 100,000 views. So when I went back to Battlefield 4, that's what I'm doing now. My last video is like that, where I have music behind it and it's like fast-paced kills, like nutty flicks, whatever it may be. So BattleBit gave me my idea to split my videos into two, one being slow gameplay, high kills, and one being fast with the music. And on top of that, I did manage to get a lot of subs from playing BattleBit. And it's quite interesting, you left the game without an explanation, or like you knew beforehand that the game will die off. So I always knew BattleBit wasn't going to last, but the devs did a really good job at speedrunning the game to its death. Instead of nerfing the things that needed to be nerfed, all they did was nerf what the tryhards used, in quotes. So anyone good at the game was basically getting nerfed because the casual players would complain, and the casual players that did complain were going to end up leaving the game anyway. Those casual players were the flavor of the month players. They see new game that's good, they go to it and play it, end up quitting a month later, maybe 2 months later, maybe 3 if the game is really good. And those are the players that they listen to. And every new game is going to have that, where they have those flavor of the month players. Even Battlefield's going to have that. As for now, all these people in Battlefield are complaining about all this crap. Most of them probably aren't even going to be playing the game in 3 months. So, but the devs listened to that, unfortunately, and BattleBit, and it did a really good job at speedrunning the game to its death. I think the game really only lasted 2 months. I thought it would get at least 6 months out of the game. Like, for an example, you have the snipers, the endgame snipers. You can shoot people 500 meters away by aiming on their head. You don't have to account for bullet drop or anything. The snipers in that game were completely broken. They were basically hit scan. And on top of that, when you did get hit to the body, you always had to bandage yourself because you were bleeding. Another thing is, for support, if you wore the exo armor and someone was point blank on the SMG, it would take like 6 shots to kill someone to the head. So there was just like so many things broken. Another thing, landmines, claymores, you could have unlimited amount of landmines and claymores out at once. I literally played matches where I would claymore only, literally top frag in the match using claymores only, 100+ kills. So it was dumb. There were so many things that were broken with the game that needed to be fixed, but yet they just continued to nerf anything that the good players used, to the point where no good player is going to want to play the game, and then all the flavor of the month players are just going to quit. So the game basically died. But last question, how's things been so far in the aspect of life? Because a lot has been going on as of lately. So this year, I talked about it a little bit in the last few questions ago about the mental health stuff, but this year has definitely been probably my hardest year ever when it comes to personal growth. A lot of challenges and tests thrown my way this year, and a lot of failures. So this year's been filled with just a lot of struggles, but I know in the end I will win, because I'm not someone to just give up and quit. So as long as I keep working on it, I know in the end I'll win, and I'll overcome all these challenges and all these tests. In the past couple months, things have been going better. So there's 3 months left in this year, and I'm just completely locked in. I just want to get this situated so I don't have to deal with this going into 2026. So I can just have a good year in 2026 and not dealing with all these personal struggles and leave it all behind in this year. But when it comes to my outside world, things that have been happening around me, it's actually been a pretty good year. Everything going on around me has been going pretty good, which is better compared to my last couple years, because my last couple years, my outside world, there's been some series of unfortunate events that I've had to go through, and pretty much I have no control over what happened the past couple years. So when I have no control over unfortunate events that happen, I try to control my reaction to those unfortunate events. Try not to let it bother me and get to me, and just pretty much just push through it, knowing that there's nothing I could have done to change it. But this year has been pretty nice to me. It's just when it comes to personal challenges, it's been a struggle and there's been a lot of failures. But like I said, in the end, I know I'm going to win, and I've already been locking in pretty hard at the end of this year, and I know going into 2026, I'm going to have a good year. If you could make the perfect FPS game, what would it look like? Honestly, if I could make the perfect FPS game, it'd be CSGO without one-way smokes. That would be my perfect FPS game. If you don't know what one-way smokes are, it's basically one person can see through the smoke while the other person can't. So if that got removed from CSGO, that would literally be my perfect FPS game. I think CS2 also has potential to be just as good as CSGO, maybe even better, but the game has so many server issues and performance issues that like right now it's not even fun to play. But if you took away the server issues and the game felt just as crisp as CSGO, I would say CS2 would probably be the perfect FPS game. What do you do as a living? So I used to own multiple businesses, but I ended up selling most of them. So I only own one now. And I got asked another question that I didn't put on screen, but it was, what is my hobbies outside of gaming? And going to the gym is one. And then the other one is watching anime. I'm actually pretty invested in anime. I really like watching anime when it comes out every season and rating them as well. What was your first memorable video game and how long have you been playing Battlefield for? My first memorable video game was probably Halo 3 because I wasn't allowed to own consoles other than like a Wii and GameCube. So to play a lot of the big games, I had to go to my friend's house and play them. And the first game I played on Xbox when I went to my friend's house was Halo 3, and that game was honestly insane. So my first memorable game was definitely Halo 3, and Battlefield I've been playing since 2020. Top 3 FPS players of all time. I feel like this is a hard question because when you ask this, I assume it means who can go from FPS game to FPS game and still be insane. I think obvious answer for one of them is Shroud. Shroud can go to any FPS game and be really good. But for another person, I'd probably say Summit. Summit can definitely go to like FPS games and be way above the average player. Now for the third one, I don't really know. I'm trying to go for like just content creators right now. But realistically, there's a lot of people like me out there who aren't well known that can literally go to FPS game and dominate. Because I would say myself for this, honestly, because I mean, I played tier 2 Counter-Strike, grinded leaderboards in PUBG, I played tier 2 Valorant, and then I even went and played Halo Infinite, and on the leaderboards, I was number 2 for mouse and keyboard, and for the crossplay, I was top 20 in the world at the same exact time, and I was solo queued, so I'm going against controller 4 stacks, and if you don't know, aim assist in Halo Infinite is completely broken. So I'm solo queued in the controller playlist, top 20 in the world, and then at the same time I was top 2 for mouse and keyboard, and then now as well as my Battlefield career. So like myself, I can also go to any FPS game and just automatically be top of the 0.1% of players. But if I were to strictly do just streamers and like content creators, I'd definitely have Shroud, Summit in there. And then for a third, I don't really know, maybe Asu. I mean, Asu played professional Counter-Strike, also played Valorant. I don't know if he used to play professional Valorant. He's really good at Apex as well. Like Asu can definitely go to any FPS game and be really good. So when it comes to content creators, I'd probably say Summit, Shroud, Asu in no order. But without content creators, I'd definitely throw myself in there. But that's it for all the questions. So hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe. I got one more Battlefield video after this, and then we got Battlefield 6. Peace.
Benqを打開しなければならん。